Call this meeting of the Fitchburg School Committee to order. Please rise. Ms. Walsh, would you lead us in a pledge of allegiance?
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Moving on to school committee members and student reports. There are no student reports to be given tonight. School committee chair report, nothing to report. Resource committee,
Nothing at this time?
Mr. Stevens, nothing to report. Facilities,
Nothing?
nothing, all right. Student report, again, no students here. School personnel, nothing to report in that. And executive committee, nothing to report in that as well. Any comments? Seeing none. I have a motion to approve the minutes of the previous school committee meeting of November 7th, 2016.
Make a motion?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? It is unanimous. No need for executive session. Communications. Any communications? Public comment. Is there anyone wishing to make public comment in the audience this evening? Please approach the center table. Seeing none, move along. Superintendent's report. Mr. Ravenel.
Thank you, Mayor. Breakfast for the Bands was Sunday morning. I think I saw most of you there, either when I was serving or when I was leaving. Great success. And Tabitha was there with the band. They did a great job, and she's here tonight to talk to you about the band. And it looks like there's some bling on the table.
Yeah, we did. We always come with a little bit of stuff to share. I'll just take one. I'll take over. Yeah. I also have a PowerPoint, but I don't know, can I
Yes,
put my
yeah.
thumb drive into there?
Yep,
Will that
yep.
do? Okay. Yeah, these are just a
Give it
collection.
to me. I'll get it set up.
A collection of some of our trophies from the season, for marching season this year. We do NESBA, the New England Scholastic Band Association circuit, and we went to 5 competitions this year, 5 weekends of competitions. So 4 regular season,
This
and
laptop
then
doesn't have a...
it's just a regular USB.
Oh, it
It's
looks
just
different?
it just looks different. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I just learned something.
It should be there's only one thing on it, so it should be all set. Yeah, so we did 5 weekends of competition, which was really
It's the NESBA
quite
one?
awesome. The
The
PowerPoint.
PowerPoint.
Yeah. I brought Leslie Tejada, one of my drum majors, for the evening, so you can ask her some questions as well. She's a senior at Fitchburg High School, currently doing dual enrollment as well at Fitchburg State. So a great example of a product of Fitchburg Public Schools, I would say. Yeah. I just put together some brief things that we can talk to, and some photos, because I think that's like the best the best thing to show, because the picture's worth 1,000 words. So like I said, we did 5 weekends, starting the first weekend in October and finishing the very last weekend of October, going to NESBA Championship Finals. For the 3rd consecutive year, we've earned a gold medal at finals, which is spectacular for us. The first time that we went out for NESBA, we earned that gold medal at finals, and it was a huge achievement for us because the band hadn't earned a gold medal in over 20 years
Oh my
at
gosh.
kind of any kind of competition. And from all the records, thank you. From all of the records that I can kind of see, the highest that they had ever earned at a marching band competition had been a silver medal. So we've also surpassed the history that exists in the band. That's not to say that there hasn't been a time, but earlier than that, who knows? But we come from a storied tradition and a long history of excellence in music. So we're kind of bringing that back, which I'm really very proud of. Our show this year was entitled Apparitions. It was 3 movements. The first movement was Curiosity, the second movement, Deception, and the third movement, Attack. And we used each one of these themes to kind of create an effect on the field, what it should look like, what the music should sound like, and how we create that theme and those ideals, those feelings in movement and in sound, because that's the whole point of a marching band, is combining those two things. So you can see some of our scores and our progress. Again, these are pretty true to the last 2 years, always having that big jump of about 20 points from our first competition out to our last competition out. So that's huge improvement, 7, 8 points every single week that we're going out. The reason that there's a asterisk by the first competition is because it was indoor. So they only give you a medal ranking rather than a score. For indoor shows, and that's for everybody. That's true for everybody. So we go in competition, meaning there are other bands who are also in our division, and they rank our scores. So they award a place, a score, and a medal award. So the first 3 that we went out, North Andover, Wakefield, and Billerica, those are all bronze medals. Billerica, we were really a little miffed. We should have been a silver medal. We were only 2.2 points away from that silver medal at Billerica High School. And Wakefield, that was pretty spectacular because our bus didn't come. And so thankfully, all of my band parents that were there, we carpooled all the way to Wakefield in order for us to make it to the competition in time.
Oh my
We had
gosh.
just enough time to arrive, unload the trailer, put our instruments together, and hoof it up the hill. I don't know if you've ever been to Wakefield High School, but their field is at the top of a massive hill. So we literally got to the top of the hill, and we're all kind of like, okay, here we go, and marched right onto the field. So that was a big accomplishment for us. That 65 meant a lot on that day. So that was pretty awesome. Yeah. And so I just put together a collection of photos kind of from the sequence of shows. So this is from North Andover, which was inside. So we can just get a couple of shots of some stuff. You'll see a new change to our drums this year and for our percussionists. So that's why I put some
And
close-ups
hair
on.
color, too.
And I mean, also, I picked 2 of the most adorable kids in the band. Wink, wink. Obviously, playing,
Just occurred to me.
playing some favorites, if you don't mind. Obviously, Leslie, right here too.
Yeah.
Was that your daughter?
Yeah,
That was my niece.
yeah. Just in case.
It was lost on us.
So we also in the course of the events, we always go to every single home football game. We celebrated senior night, so there's me with my 3 seniors this year. Have no shame in making goofy faces. That was good fun. It was wonderful to be included in senior night with the football team and the cheerleaders. That's something that was really lovely of the athletic department to include us this year for senior night. So that was really, really nice. I don't have the photos that were taken with the parents and their seniors, though, but I do have some funny snaps of me and them. A quick shout out to all of my wonderful parents who did come and chaperone every single weekend, those 5 weeks in a row through October, who drove the trailer for us, who even on this day when we were at Reading High School where there were gusts of winds to hold up our set piece, which we had this year. And that was a big change for us in order to create the theme. So Jean and 3 other people actually stood behind this set piece for us all through our performance for about 9 minutes, just holding it in place. While we were at Reading, we watched multiple set pieces just get knocked over because no one waited behind. So we were...
And even take out some performers.
Yeah, even knock people over, knock kids out. They had to, one band had to completely restart because they had this massive panel that was basically just a giant sail on wheels. And as soon as the wind came, it just clear across the field. It was terrifying, but...
You talk
So-
about support bands.
Yeah, exactly. Talking about support. Here's a couple snaps from the breakfast this year, which just happened yesterday. Another massive success. We love the breakfast. It's something that we look forward to every single year and is a great culmination to the end of our competition season. And just a great, incredible community event. There was a really lovely article in the Sentinel and Enterprise, as there always is. They gave us a lot of really great coverage. We had a huge number of football team players from the football team this year come and support us. So a big thanks to Coach Walker, who helped to facilitate that. And we have a photo with Jeremy, Principal Roach, and Mayor with us yesterday. So that was lovely to have everything. So here are a couple of photos, like kind of throughout the season, that are some of the best and some of our favorites collectively. So you can see that we had this massive set piece on the field to help to tell this story. So in that first movement, the entirety of our percussion was hidden behind. And so the band interacts with that set piece, kind of like tentatively moving towards it, tentatively moving away, to be curious about these sounds emanating from behind this wall. I'm very grateful to Tom Simak, who builds all the sets for the musical, who I called in a little bit of a favor, and I said, hey, Tom, I want this giant set piece. Can you build it for me? Can you paint it? And he did an incredible job. Every single time we went to competition, the judges always mentioned it. They said, whoever painted your set, whoever did it, did a really fabulous job. Because a lot of people buy sets, that look like that. They pay the money, but Tom just did it. He painted it by hand for us, so that was really awesome. We also had masks for every single one of the percussionists, so they kind of represented this evil entity, and they move kind of throughout the band. So here's some really cool photos. These are from Homecoming at Crocker Field. You can see another
so nice.
shot. So it creates a lot of dimension.
Drama.
Big drama on the field. These are some from Wakefield High School. From Billerica High School. Some close-ups, so you can see some of this fabulous detailing that was done on the mask by Logan Miles, who's a student at Fitchburg High School, a great artist, and he's been with me for the last 3 years doing the musical as well. So some nice close-ups. There was a really nice breeze, so you get a lot of that drama in those helmets and the plumes on top, so that's nice. There's that first emergence of the percussion behind. You'll see that we painted our drums this year in order to kind of facilitate that theme. It's probably sacrilegious for me to say, but I've never been a fan of the red of the drums, because it's just a lot. So this one kind of blends into to them, and you pay more attention to what they're doing and the sound that they're making rather than the sight of the drums. So that was a cool thing for us to do. Everybody had a lot of fun painting the drums and painting them before every single competition. Here's another shot of some really beautiful diagonals, which are hard to do. And two of my favorite shots from the season, this was taken at Homecoming of the band, and underneath those lights at Crocker Field. You kind of can't get any better. And then this one as well.
Do you do the choreography too?
Pardon?
Do you do the choreography?
I don't do the drill, which is the actual placement of each individual person. That's done by Patty Casey, who is an incredible human being and has been doing the drill for the band for probably 15, 20 years. So Patty and I meet, we talk about what the theme is going to be, how we're going to achieve those, how do you create this idea of curiosity, in physical movement and sound. It's really bizarre. So we have a really long process and talk about different things. We add new levels of complexity as we go through the shows. So by the final performance, we're having body modifications and body tics and different movements on the field, in addition to their actual placements from one place to the other across the field. Yeah.
Great,
I've done all this talking, and I brought a student with me. So, the last thing I can do is self-promotion. We do have a Snapchat that you can follow us. You can add us on Snapchat, and we do a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff, especially during the musical and during marching season. We posted a lot of things up on Snapchat, which I think is really awesome. You can follow me on Twitter. We also have an Instagram, and we have a Facebook page. So all of those things you can add, follow, at whatever the options are to kind of stay informed to know what's happening at Fitchburg High School.
Great job.
Yeah. Any questions or?
Leslie, you're a senior,
Yeah.
so have you been in the band all 4 years?
I joined during the spring, my freshman year, because I was a bit of a chicken to join marching band at first. And then I eventually got along with the band. I actually really liked it, so I did marching band throughout the rest of my 3 years.
That's great.
And as you have kids graduating, do you have other kids coming up?
I do. It's usually the transition can be tricky. The largest class that I ever got was my very first year, that freshman class. But Derek and we try really hard to work together to figure out kind of what we're going to do and get more and more students in to the band. So, yeah.
Is it the lack of instruments or?
I think that there are a lot of things that go into it, which this might not be the level, in terms of the complexities that I think go along with it. But I think one of the biggest problems is that they don't have band every single day at both schools, and I don't think that there's a band at McKay still. So that's one middle school that's not even being serviced for instrumental music. But we have heterogeneous. Derek does an incredible job with what he is required to do by servicing both Memorial and Longshow, and they meet in heterogeneous groups. So, like, you could have a massive group of 15 kids that are all playing random instruments all together, but not necessarily be able to sit together in a band. They might only do that twice a year for, the winter and spring concert. Yeah, but
You
I'd
need
be happy.
another teacher. Another band teacher.
That'd be amazing. I think it'd be an incredible thing. There was a time in the district where there were 3. There was one at every single middle school, and there was also a separate music teacher. So not only was there a band instructor, band director at every single school, but also a music teacher in addition.
Leslie, when did you start to play?
I started playing flute in the 6th grade.
Okay. Were you at a middle school here?
Yeah, I came to Memorial.
Okay.
Yeah, but we, at the middle school, we used to have 2 teachers, like Al Demick, who was the band teacher here, and he had as many as 120 in the band at Memorial.
Sure.
We had lessons during the day. It was a pullout, and kids would then have to make up whatever they missed at the time. And they also had 2 band periods a week where everybody would show up. And it was just a tremendous program.
Yeah.
I'd like to see us get back to that.
I mean, Al Dimick was teaching at the same time as Carlton Thorne,
Yes.
and he retired well over 20 years ago. So it's been a
I've been around for a while.
well. I'm not accusing you. I'm just saying it's been a while since
Yeah.
we've kind of had those sorts
Well,
of.
Bill Williams, who's now the alumni band director, he was my music teacher
Yep.
here. Yeah. And,
Could I ask, Leslie, like, has the change in schedule made you able to, so as I understand it, you didn't have a band class before, right? Is that right?
I wasn't allowed to join band because I was in the Arts Academy as well,
Yeah.
so we have a lot of requirements to fulfill, and I wasn't able to move around my schedule to
Yeah.
join band. But since we had the 7-block schedule now, it made it way more flexible to join band and other music classes that I was interested in taking.
Yeah, that's made a huge difference at the high school to move from that 4-block rotation to the 7-block. This is now only the 2nd year of that rotation, so I think that we're going to see a lot of kids that probably would have joined band their freshman or sophomore year and are now juniors and seniors, that because we didn't get them on that transition, because they had other requirements, because it wasn't able to fit into their schedule, because they were taking another singleton class that met only at the time the band was meeting, that because we didn't get them in that transition, then they never returned. But, I mean, I do have, right now, 2 juniors in the band who've never played an instrument before. And they joined because I make that option available at the high school, because I know that not every single kid is going to be able to have that opportunity in middle school, or might not want that opportunity, or might not know that they want that opportunity. So even at the high school level, they can join the band having never played an instrument before.
at the extended day, particularly at Lonjo, seems to me we could do something there with the extended day, with the more time, and really have a band program.
Sure, I think that would be tremendous. Right now, I know that they meet usually during homeroom for about 30 minutes, and that's only maybe once or twice a month. Now, I might be mistaken, but that's the last information that I've heard from Derek.
Yeah, I just have my own feelings on that. I think there should be more, and it should be integrated right into the program, like, into the school day, like every other program. And we need to, even if you see parents now saying, hey, we need more recess, let's build the total student. And, you know, we need the reading, writing, and arithmetic, but we also need to build the total child. And I'd like to
This
see.
group is just so incredibly creative and just fun. It just, I'd never seen this.
Right.
In either my own high school career or teaching career, I hadn't gone to marching band competitions. And boy, that's really an event. It's something that everybody should go see just because it's impressive, the kinds of shows that the kids are putting on. You guys did a great job, and it's very intense part of it, I think. And I just laughed because one of the competitions, Ms. G had gone down to the bus to start the process of getting the kids to the bus or whatever, and you hadn't heard the score, and I walked down, you said, so what was the score? And I said, I think it was at 80.2 or something like that. And you said, shut up.
Yeah, that was a big gain for us that week, and we had some issues that we hadn't had during the week in the performance, things that like had kind of gone a little wonky that normally like hadn't, and so all of us were feeling really, really just kind of like, oh man, we just, this is the one shot you come out. That's what the great thing about doing marching band is that you get to do all of these competitions, and so every single week you can see that growth. So even though it is that one shot, that one opportunity for you to impress the judges and be adjudicated at that day, you can still have so much progress to go to the next week. So yeah, I definitely.
It was great.
I did say it was completely off the cuff, and I just
It was
couldn't
great.
even,
No, I thought that was.
couldn't even help it.
It was perfect. It was perfect.
Well, thank you so much. This is
Thank
great.
you.
This is great. Great program, and lots of fun.
Thank you very much.
And I guess size is not the issue in terms of the biggest bands are not necessarily the gold
That is true.
winners of the gold.
That is absolutely
Small
true.
is beautiful.
So it all depends on the level
Yeah,
of
yeah.
perfection that you achieve. And
Yeah,
so
it's great.
when you're executing the skills that you need to, that's what gets you a gold medal. So
Okay.
Thank you.
And we're going to take a trip to Washington, D.C. now and hear about the D.C. trip. And we have Elise Pierce, Abriana Fusco, Farella Cruz Rivera, and Gina Duval. I see 4 names and 3 people, so someone's not here. Okay, good. So are you guys doing this on your own? I also had Miss Fisher here, but... So who's going to run you? You're all set running the photos?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, good. All right. Then you're off. Tell us about it.
Okay, so this was me and Abriana are in this picture. This isn't actually the first place we went. The pictures are a little out of order here, but it's in front of the Washington Monument.
So give the folks at home a little of what is this trip? What are we looking
Okay.
at?
So
This isn't family vacation.
our 8th grade class went to Washington, D.C. last year, and we took like a 9-hour bus ride down. This was the first night that we had gotten there, and
This was the first thing that we did, I think, right? Isn't this the first place that we stopped?
yeah, like our first big stop, kind of in front of
Yeah.
a monument.
The day we got there.
Pretty stormy day.
Yeah, it started
Yeah.
raining later. The rain held off for a while though, which was good.
And we had to, we were supposed to go to
If you
some
just put the
monument.
arrow on here. You want to put the arrow here and just click on there.
Oh, we were supposed to go to
Okay.
another monument that afternoon when we got there,
but it ended up raining, and we were there, and it was pouring on us. So we ended up just going back to the bus, and we checked into our hotel early because we couldn't do anything.
Some of the other groups actually stayed out in the rain, though.
Yeah.
We were the first group back to the hotel. So, yeah, this is actually, like, the first thing we saw as soon as we got off the bus. It was the Treasury building. And that was interesting. Like, the architecture was really cool in all these old buildings.
There you can see our tour guide. He's kind of pointing to it.
In the blue shirt.
In the blue shirt. Him along with all of the other tour guides, they were very helpful with explaining like what the different monuments are and like why they're still relevant today and what impact they had on what we are today. So
Yeah, that was our view of the White House. That was like the second thing, so we walked to the White House after that, which was very, very cool.
A lot of monuments.
Yeah, we have a lot of pictures of the Washington Monument. Actually. Kept driving past there.
we kind of went around in circles, so we got different
Angles.
Yeah, many different angles.
Yeah, so this was the World War II Memorial, which is where we went after the Washington Monument. And that was really cool because they have all the states and with all the wreaths. So we found Massachusetts, and then we were just looking at them and walking around. That was nice.
Another angle.
That's a good picture, though.
Yes.
Yeah, the storm clouds kind of added cool.
Pictures.
These are from all of our, just our
A whole bunch of students.
Nice.
Yeah.
us three, like our
Yeah,
phones.
nice
Yeah, balance.
framing and stuff.
Yeah.
Another one.
This time with the fountain.
Might want to go faster.
Yeah. Okay, so after that we walked, by the reflecting pool, and we went up to the Lincoln Memorial. So that's like a nice view just from the front of it.
Those steps are a lot longer than they look.
Yes.
58 steps.
Wow. Actually, it felt good though after the long bus ride to just walk around.
There's a picture of Lincoln. And then all around are the different, like, there's a mural, and then it has the. Different angles.
That's from Lincoln
One
Memorial.
there, Alco. Very pretty pictures. Very nice.
Yeah, this was at the Vietnam Memorial, and that was really interesting. There were so many, like, on that wall. That whole wall continued, and it had all different names of the soldiers, and it was really interesting to see, like, all the people, like, to actually have a name for them.
Did you know that those flowers and letters are picked up every day and stored?
Yeah.
They have all of them. Yeah.
They're
Our tour
looking to
guide
open a
was-
museum someday of all the stuff
Yeah.
that's been left there.
That was me and Abby at a thing. You can go move on.
Along with all of the learning we had in DC, there was also the fun aspect of it. So it's not
we
just
have some pictures thrown in here.
yeah. So it's not just like
The fun.
everything's like you learn, you grasp, you take. It's like you're taking in the experience and you're like living the moment while it lasts.
Yeah.
And even though we had a lot of stuff to do while we were there, a lot of different things to see, and we had to move fast for some of the things. Like when we went to see the White House, we were only there for like
A good 10 minutes.
yeah, less than 10 minutes, I would say.
Probably less than that.
So
Just enough to take a picture.
yeah, and like the tour guide, he had a lot of things to explain, like why that monument or whatever was relevant. And we didn't have that much time to take pictures, but like he did give us like a minute or two to take some. So like I was looking through my pictures to include pictures in the slideshow. And I saw I didn't really take any pictures, but I have a lot of information that I got on that field trip.
Another.
Very artistic.
It's all about the aesthetics.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is
So this is a representation of the fun.
Yeah.
This is Elise and I in the hotel room,
we were dancing.
listening to who knows what.
Dancing to patriotic songs, I'm sure.
I'm sure.
John Philip Sousa.
Right? Liberty Bell.
It might have been Hamilton.
Okay.
That probably more like
It probably was Hamilton, actually.
Okay, so the next morning, the first thing we did was the
We went to the Arlington.
yeah, the Arlington Cemetery, and yeah.
I thought that was really cool because when we were there, we got to see changing of the guards.
Oh yeah.
And that was so cool. And it was just like, it was cool to see how all the students that were there were silent. Like, nobody was making a sound. And it was so weird because it wasn't like that at all. Like, I've never seen that many people be that quiet. And I also just found it fascinating how they do, like, the soldiers, or they do that all year round, like, even through snow and rain. And I just think that's so cool that they do that.
Yeah, it captured everyone's attention.
That's the
Yeah.
Robert E. Lee house.
That's a nice picture. We liked how they were all arranged in like straight lines. It was very
Yeah, we weren't here for very long.
We weren't at this memorial very long, so it was the
Iwo Jima.
yeah.
There are 6 men there, but you can only see 5 at any one time. You can never see all 6.
At this point, we were watching them raise the flag, and it got stuck many times. So
Yeah,
it was nice to see them keep trying.
It was very windy, so the
Yeah, the
flag
whole
kept going like around in a circle around the pole, so they had to keep taking it down and putting it back up. But it was cool to
But
see
they
like
finally
how
got it up. So
Yeah, so then we went to the museum, and this was like maybe my favorite part of the whole thing actually, because it was just really interesting to see. They had a lot of interactive activities too. So like one of them was a table where it was just like, what was it? Just like a screen kind of on the table, and you could stand around and play this game where you had to like be faster than the other people around the table and drag the things. And it was about like determining accurate sources for news stories. So that's cool.
So not only did they have visual ways of helping the person learn, it also had like a whole bunch of technology. Like there was something for a newscasting show, and you got to be the person who was speaking, and it gave you like a script, and it gave you an event.
Yeah,
So
like a news anchor.
you got to
Yeah,
pretend
like-
to be the news reporter.
yeah, so you got to say about what was happening in that time, and it just gave like an accurate representation of how like a person has to work fast that's in that kind of job. So
And when we were there was a lot of information about journalism and news reporters and how their job is, like what it entails. And there was a whole, like I would say, 15-minute long video that kept replaying, and I found it really interesting because it had all different clips of news reporters on the day of 9/11 when the Twin Towers were coming down, and it showed like what they were going through. It showed like the actual clips of. It was cool to see everyone around them. Well, it wasn't cool to see it, but it was interesting to see everyone panicking around them, and they were still. The news reporters were trying to stay calm and like explain what was going on to the news, or to the viewers, and yeah, that was interesting to see. Like I couldn't imagine staying that calm while everything around you was going on like that.
Yeah, so that picture was just like headlines from 9/11, and this is an actual picture of like a piece of the building of the World Trade Center. This is another part of the fun.
so in this
That's Ryan, Miss G.
yeah, that's Ryan. So here, this is also at the museum. There was a portion where it was
We got to see a 4D movie.
so it was a 3D show
But it had
with
like
the glasses, but it had like special effects while you were in your chair, so the seats would move and then you would get water sprayed on you.
and like you could feel like wind, and then
Yeah,
Like, it
was
put you
about-
in that
It was
time.
about Nellie Bly, who like went undercover in an insane asylum, like pretending to be like
Insane.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
She actually became insane after.
from being
she
there
well
for so
she
long.
uncovered the story, so it was kind of about her experience there and like showing how journalists will like the lengths they'll go to get the story.
Yeah, and there was a part in that, like in the movie, about something about how there was a rat in her room. I don't really remember what it was about. And
She
because
became friends with it.
yeah, and during the like because it was 4D, there was like sounds of like a rat running by, and everyone screamed and thought
There
there
were
was
little
a rat.
flaps underneath the seats too, so it would like.
And it was like hitting your ankles, and everyone
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, I wouldn't care for that.
Yeah, so this was a picture from inside the Holocaust Museum.
You can see it says. Well, it talks about how.
To tell your children so that the story carries on.
So it's not forgotten because it was such a big part in history, and it should be known.
And there are a lot of people who don't think the Holocaust really happened, and so this this museum shows like these are the facts, these are what really happened, and that shows that it's important to tell children so that the story can be clear. Yeah, so that people know what happened. And also in the Holocaust Museum there was videos of survivors telling their story, which was also very interesting.
It was
to see.
really moving, yeah.
Yeah.
And not only do these pictures like say a lot about our like experience, like in the Holocaust Museum there was a room where you walked past and it was just so emotional in there. There were a whole bunch of shoes from all the people, and like more than half of the kids that I was walking with in my group while we were touring it were almost in tears, and so was I. 'Cause it was just a lot to take in and a lot to realize. Like what we have now is different from what was back then.
Yeah, but it related because in English we were reading The Boy in the Striped Pajamas.
Before
So
we left
yeah,
for the trip.
so we had finished that just before we left, so we could kind of
It's a great book.
get more information about it. This was a Martin Luther King Jr. memorial. And that's just like
That was
our
just-
group walking.
Yeah.
This was part of the Franklin Roosevelt Memorial.
Who took these pictures did a beautiful job. Yeah. Wow.
And all of these are taken again by like
By
the
students.
By
students,
us.
Wonderful.
It was just us.
not on a
Just the
professional
three of us.
camera or anything. It's just on our phones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So it was at the zoo.
The zoo, I think that was the last day.
One of the last days. Yeah.
And it was really fun to go to the zoo because we spent a lot of time, like, walking and taking in information, and the tour guide was teaching us things. And then this was fun because I think we were only there for like an hour and a half or something like that. But it was still fun to like, you got to like do your own thing, and it was like you got a chance to have fun rather. Like it was interesting to learn things, but it was also nice to like be able to like have fun and like be at the zoo and like.
We
see
all
the
went
animals.
independently.
Yeah.
And there was also a snake that was loose.
Yeah, snake got
It was terrified. Yeah, so that's
the
the
lion.
lion. And then this was in the Smithsonian. That's the Hope Diamond. I found like the geology part of the Smithsonian really cool. Like, we stayed in there for a long time, and I took a bunch of pictures of like cool.
You could spend like a week in there, I think.
Yeah.
Of rocks.
So that was one
Wow,
cool one.
that's beautiful.
Another Washington one. And I think that is the end of it. Yeah.
Okay, great job.
Overall, the DC trip was like such an amazing experience, and there was a lot to learn.
Yeah, it was
and
probably like my favorite thing.
Yeah, I knew I was like since fourth grade. I was like, oh, we're going on this DC trip. It's gonna be so fun. But I didn't imagine it to be as fun as it was, and like
Yeah.
Yeah.
as educational as it
Yeah,
was.
it's definitely something you like. are kind of hyped for as
Yeah.
you go
It was
through
nice
school.
to look forward to all through the 8th grade year. We knew like at the end of the year we were going to DC, and it was nice. It was a nice thing to know we were going to be able to do something like that. It's a great opportunity.
Great.
Are there any questions?
So did you get a chance to see the Washington Monument?
Actually, we never actually got close to it.
Yeah, that was
Those
actually
pictures
are the closest.
Actually,
We'll have to go back.
did you ever see the Capitol?
We took.
Yes.
Did we take that? I think
Yeah.
we forgot the big picture.
Yeah, oh,
with
right, the big
everybody.
picture.
Right in front of it, we have a copy of those pictures at central office every year
Oh,
of
right,
the
right.
whole 8th grade in front of the Capitol
So
building.
that was the closest we actually got, but we did get a nice view from
Good.
there.
It's pretty
Well,
quick,
and
but
all the scaffolding is down now, and because a few years ago, both the Washington Monument and the Capitol were covered with scaffolding, and now it's all gone, so it's great. Well, thank you very much. That was a
Thank you.
great
Very nice.
travel. Well, that was just the first trip to Washington. As you know, I was in Washington last week, and want to tell you a little bit about the trip. It was incredibly interesting because I was there with 49 other superintendents, one from every state. And just so you didn't think I was wasting time, I brought the agenda to show you that they worked us. Breakfast was at 7:30. The meeting started at 8 a.m. And, the day was a day of workshops. We got to hear from John B. King, who is the Secretary of Education. And his own life story was so interesting from where he came from. Parents and grandparents were sharecroppers, really, was talking about a life of struggle and was really able to say how education really, for him, was the way out. And that was a lot of the conference, was about education as the equalizer. There were presenters. There was a presenter from Arizona, from Wisconsin, from Wyoming, and from California. It was so interesting to hear about the different ways they are approaching curriculum, the ways technology is integrated, the budget situations that they have. I have to say that not every state is as friendly to public education as Massachusetts is. And there were many times I would hear these stories and say, wow, we are so lucky, no matter how much we struggle, that there really is an appreciation here for the role of public education and the role of public education for all students. Then there were a couple of presentations from we went over to a place called the Hall of Flags. We were supposed to go to the White House, but there was a security issue. It had nothing to do with us. And also they were setting up, there's a lot of construction going on, setting up for the inauguration. So we went to the Hall of Flags, and we basically sat in a room, and the White House staff came and spoke with us, and the legislative staff came to speak with us, really kind of giving us a sense of where things were going. It was interesting for me to know that the Department of Education has 4,800 employees, and of those, only 150 are political appointees. So in January, there will only be 150 of them that will turn over. There is talk in the air of eliminating the Department of Education. If not eliminating it, reducing it to an office. So we learned the difference between a cabinet and an office. So if it was reduced to an office, there would no longer be a cabinet position for Secretary of Education. It's kind of encouraging to hear that there are a few people being vetted as possible secretaries of education, but I'm not sure that those folks, would still be able to do that, in an office situation. So these are the different people from the White House who spoke with us, talked about transition, how the transitions take place, what kinds of things we could look for. And then there was a lot of talk about closing the achievement gap. So people from all of the different states were talking about the things going on in their states to close the achievement gap. And I have to tell you, there was so little new that I heard, because I was so proud to say that so many of the things that were just being looked at, we had already been doing for a very long time. And I think that, the district and all of you and all of us should be proud of that. And there was nothing at all like the AP program, the MIMSI program that we're doing. I was sharing some of the things. I shared the idea of the Footsteps to Brilliance and how what we're doing for early literacy, and had a lot of people say, "What's that? That sounds good. We'd like to do that too." So really was able to make a lot of connections that way. And then listening to some of the superintendents talk about their district. This was the superintendent from Vancouver, which is a suburb. I don't have to read these to you, but you can see that there are major shifts, tectonic shifts taking place across the country. And if you remember a couple of years ago, I formed a group in Massachusetts for non-urban districts, and they were superintendents saying, we're starting to experience some of the things that urban districts experience. How can we learn from the urbans? And that's what this is all about. Here you've got a suburb of Vancouver going from 39 to 57% free and reduced in 5 years, doubling their ELL population, 81 different languages. So, there's a shift and a change that's taking place. The 45% mobility, now some of that, there's a big military presence in that area. So some of that shift is, military families coming and going. Increased social emotional issues, every single state, every single superintendent, all talking about the increase of need to address social and emotional issues. North Carolina, I had to check this number, 500% increase in homelessness. And then the one superintendent talked about this one family that he remembers who had been, in 1 year, had been moved 13 times. And we talked a lot about how do you educate that student, even if it's a bright student, that turmoil, that changing all of the time. And just like our partnership, I talked a lot about our partnerships with Mount Wachusett, partnership with Fitchburg State, again, unique to a lot of things. This one here has a partnership with UNC Chapel Hill and was doing some really interesting things with them. So in Arizona, this was interesting. The state had created legislation to allow school districts to open their own charter schools. So a number of districts opened charter schools with particular kind of interests. 2 years later, the legislature changed the law so that districts were no longer able to have charter schools, closed those charter schools. They had to be returned into public schools, and they took the funding away. So it was an experiment that did not go well. And then in Texas, there was a lot of talk that so many of the legislators who were involved in the charter school movement, they had ties to companies that were creating charters. There's in Missouri a new change of government, a new governor, choice, and the experience that they're having is that the choice is actually increasing segregation as opposed to addressing the issue of segregation. Wisconsin has vouchers statewide. They have situations where somebody buys a house, opens up a small school for 20 students, and receives the funding from the state to run that school. I think the thing that was interesting was everybody's trying to figure this all out. There's a changing landscape. People are trying new things. everyone's trying to figure out how to provide a good education and to experiment and try different kinds of things. Some of them are working really well. Some of them are a challenge. And then this one in Tennessee, they started these charter schools, and not one of the 3 charter schools that was opened in this area was in a poor area or an area of need. Some takeaways. One of the conversations talked about something, it's that differentiated instruction issue. What do you do, what does a teacher do with a class of 25 students when some of the students already know the material? And again, I was proud to say that here, we've started the Ally program. We're looking at ways to identify students who are ready to move on, and we've been doing that now for years. And in terms of charters or school choice or whatever, and I think we have this philosophy, the best defense is a good offense. Don't worry about what someone else is doing or what they might do. Make what you do better and better and better. And that hopefully the quality of that will serve as its own reward. And I heard a superintendent said this, and I remembered the young 11-year-old who sat here. He said it in different language, but he said, build on a student profile that begins with students' strengths as opposed to their weaknesses. And what did, can't remember her name now.
Last meeting.
Riley Reed.
Riley
Right?
Reed.
What did she say? Somebody asked her, what's your advice to other students? And she said, find your strength and do it and get really, really good at it, and then the confidence from that will make you better at the other things. And I thought, wow, you know, from an 11-year-old in Fitchburg to a superintendent at a conference. The difference about the moving from an efficiency model where people are just on the train as opposed to making every student the driver. A lot of stuff about individualized, student-driven learning. This one I thought was good. Don't ask students what they want to be, but what problem do they want to solve? I thought that was a great quote. If you want to change behavior, change the way adults interact with students and with one another.
Yep.
And these were from presentations of particular superintendents and then, in a couple cases, principals who were with them. Create a quality profile and deliver it door to door. There was one superintendent that created a brochure about his school, and his whole central office in the summertime would spend so many hours every day walking around the neighborhoods, delivering brochures and talking to people and telling them about his school system. I can see my cabinet is wondering, okay, what's up for us next? When was the last time you tried something for the first time? And was a question that we were asked. And then, who's telling our story? And we've talked about that, right? If we don't tell our story, someone else is telling it. So it was just a lot of, a lot. Over half the states are asking for one. I don't think I left something. Oh, I know. This is a constitutional convention. This was a little bit of a shock.
Wow.
There's only been one constitutional convention in 1887. And right now, half the states are asking for a constitutional convention. And Jean, you would know more about this than I would. It takes 34 states to call one and only 38 states to ratify one. A constitutional convention would open the Constitution for revision.
What are they hoping to revise?
That would be up to anyone who wants to revise it.
Yeah.
So you've got 34 states already that are, half of them, half the states, so 25 states are already asking for one. Takes 35 to call one, 38 to ratify one. One takeaway from the Department of Education was encourage your Senate and to encourage your school committee to encourage their representatives to vote against the nutrition bill, the new nutrition bill. That there is a lot in there, and they didn't go into the details, but somebody said, what can we do with our legislators? So that's something you may want to look into. Because there were a lot of things in that were preventing the moving on in the direction that we've been going with nutrition. And then in some cases, some things that are almost impossible to accomplish and really putting a burden on school districts. But that's an area to look into a little bit more. And then this was interesting. I never heard of this organization before, ALEC.
This is huge. This came up at the education conference?
Yes.
Good.
Yeah, no, this was, a number of us were like, what's this?
This is
And I took this right off the website, but this, you'd have to explore some more. This is right on the front page of the website. An excellent education has long been recognized as key to the American dream. Unfortunately, the current monopolistic and expensive K-12 education system is failing our students, leaving them unprepared for college, careers, or life. Similarly, our higher education system is leaving students with higher debt burdens and fewer career guarantees than ever before. At first blush, you look at this and say, interesting. But when you go dig deeper, it's really a major movement to privatize education.
This is the movement that's really pushing charter schools.
Well, it's not just that, it's a lot of other things.
And vouchers, yeah,
And
that's-
just so it's,
yeah.
so you know, when you go to this website, it's not just about education. There's all kinds of
Getting
stuff
into-
on other topics of manufacturing and business and all of that. But I felt that if they're spending this time sharing this with us, I needed to come back and share
So was
that
it
with all of you.
ALEC representatives that came to that?
No.
Okay.
No. These were members of the Department of Education
Okay.
and the legislature sharing this with us. And then finally, there was a lot of focus on personalized learning. Nothing new to Fitchburg. Make schools fit the kids rather than kids fit the schools. So that was, I also went on, like them, a tour of the monuments for the second time in 3 years. Just awe-inspiring, beautiful. Did get into the African American Museum. It's, you cannot get tickets till the end of March. Tickets are booked till the end of March. We were walking by, we walked up, said, can we come in? They said, no, you need tickets. Just as we did, a security guard came by and said, oh, someone just gave me these 2 tickets. So we went in. Fabulous museum, great experience. Interesting times to be in Washington.
Congratulations again, Andre.
Yes.
Superintendent of the year.
We're so lucky.
I know.
I'd like to add that, Andre, I'm just really proud that our kids and our district benefits from your leadership and the fact that you represent Massachusetts. And Massachusetts, I would imagine, holds hopefully a little bit of clout, right? As the other states really kind of look at some of the results Massachusetts has been able to get. So just it's a real honor, I think, for Fitchburg that you were chosen. So thank you for going.
Yeah, well, it was easy to do because I can talk about Fitchburg for hours and hours and hours. So there was lots of time. The side conversations were just great. The dinner was wonderful for that. So it was a really good experience. We've got some donations tonight.
Can I just
sorry.
interrupt for a minute, Mr. Mayor? Sorry.
Yes, go ahead,
I wanted to just say thank you so much to Jana Harrison, who is here tonight, and I think this is going to be the last meeting that you're attending, and you've really done such a great job as the Fitchburg Public School champion, and getting all the groups that you have, even down to this last group that you organized to come talk about the DC trip. I love that you've had it on your agenda for a long time to get kids in for the DC trip because you just think it's such a great trip that this school system does. So I think you really worked hard to make sure that came true. But you've done that with so many presentations, and you have an incredible work ethic. I think it's going to be difficult to replace you, and we're going to have to really make sure that we find more champions like you, Jana. But good luck as you move on to your next position.
Thank you. Jana's done a great job. She's really made this job what it's supposed to be, and a wonderful writer, and really stays on top of the story. And there's so much work that goes into when you've got a photograph and you've got to find out who the people are and get permissions. She tracks them down. and she finds out. So really appreciate that. We have an athletic donation. What's that? Oh, that's what he says. Approval to accept 80,000 holiday ornaments.
Can you give a little background on that? Where do they come from?
It was a donation. Ray Cosenza got a call from a company. It's those little kind of people, snowmen type thing with the person's name on them, or dad or mom or first year baby or something like that.
Wow.
So Ray said, yeah, I'll take them and sell them and raise money for athletics. So we have 80,000 Christmas ornaments stored, and they're available. They're $1 a piece. There are lists. We've just put lists in all of the schools of the names that are available. So it's a fundraiser.
He's got 80,000 of these?
80,000.
Yeah.
80,000 ornaments?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
How many truckloads was that?
Oh, well, they're not big.
They're
big.
No, it's flat, and they're flat.
Oh, they're flat. Oh, okay.
Kind of flat, and they've got,
That's funny.
not every name is on there, but a lot of names.
Well, but they're blanks.
And
so
they're
you can
blanks,
take a
so,
nice
right.
gold
Or some just say
marker.
Happy
Yeah.
Holidays, some say Merry Christmas. But, Ray is somebody who wants to, if there's money to be found, so he said, can I take these? Where can I put them? And I said, take them, put them, and here, you sell them. So that's what he's doing.
Maybe you could make a deal with some of the PTOs, where they all have like holiday fairs.
Yeah, he's, I'm like,
working
fine,
it.
it's yours, you work it, and Ray will do a good job working. As you heard from Tabitha,
Yeah.
he included
Yeah.
the band folks in the senior banquet.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah,
kind
that's
of
nice.
person
Yeah.
he is.
Yeah.
Then we have a donation of science kits estimated at $500. And there's an appropriation, and that's about it for the agenda tonight.
Donation STEM, we're all set with that? A STEM donation?
Those are the science.
That was,
yeah.
that's the
Science
science
kits,
kits,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And, all right, so do we need a vote on this policy item? Certification requirement for professional staff,
Yeah, we do.
4202-.01, second reading.
That's down here.
Yep, I'll make a motion.
Down there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Second.
Yep.
Motion made, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It is unanimous. Thank you.
Did we take the first two?
Public testimony. I don't believe there's anyone here for public testimony. Oh, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Apologies for being a little late, and so glad to hear about all the good works that are going on. I wanted to share something. I'll share it at our next meeting as well. The first Saturday of every month at Fitchburg Public Library, Be Positive, Therapy Pets, and Community Education will bring therapy pets for kids to read with. 10:30 to noon, 10 to 15-minute slots. Reading aloud improves comprehension, improves reading ability. And this is a project that came out of the ongoing program we have at Crocker School, where the therapy pets meet with teacher Miss Lisa Vitelli and second graders in her reading pullout section. And she made the comment that, you can really tell when children have read over the weekend because they're more fluent. And I thought, well, what if we had an opportunity for reading over the weekend that would be, fun and exciting for kids? So I have flyers here. I'd love to make sure everyone at our table and all tables get them. And that is what we're going to be doing. The first Saturday of every month is Read with Therapause Therapy Pets at the library. And I'm working with the principals to get flyers to everyone, working with Assistant Superintendent Gia Quinto. And it's very exciting. I feel like we have such strong readers, and those kids who presented, that was a very mature presentation, but they came through our schools and talked very articulately. So that's what I have to share. So
Thank you. Any questions? Moving on to the action items. We just voted on 16-764.
Could I
Ms. Walsh.
Could I make a motion that we consider 16, 761, 62, 63, and 65 together?
Please do.
I
All in-
will so move.
Is the motion made to bundle 16-761 up through, including 16-765, eliminating 16-764. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? It is unanimous. No need for executive session. Any comments or questions? Do I hear a motion for adjournment?
Motion for adjournment.
All in favor?
Happy Thanksgiving.